The hall of the Galactic Council was vast, filled with glowing banners of countless species. Thousands of alien voices murmured, laughed, whispered in languages that clicked, hissed, and echoed. In the center, under the great dome of shifting starlight, stood the Terran delegation. They were few in number. Only 5 humans had been sent, dressed in dark uniforms trimmed with silver. Their presence was small compared to the towering insectoids, the scaled reptilians, the winged avians, and the crystalline giants that filled the chamber. But their voices carried weight. The lead diplomat, a woman named Alina Markov, raised her hand for silence. Her face was calm, her tone sharp, her words deliberate. Do not cross into Terran space. This is the first and only warning. The hall erupted. Laughter, loud and mocking, rolled from alien throats. Some species slapped their claws on the floor, others clicked mandibles, others flared wings. To them, this was comedy. A minor world barely a few centuries into space travel, speaking as if it were equal to the empires of the stars. The representatives of the Heller Empire, a towering power that spanned hundreds of systems, leaned forward with cold amusement. Their ambassador, scaled in gleaming armor, hissed loudly enough for his voice to echo. "Humans," he sneered, "your reach extends no farther than a child's toy. The Heller Empire walks where it pleases." The crowd cheered. The Heller were feared, respected, obeyed. They had crushed species older than Earth. To hear a Terran give commands was laughable, but Alina did not smile. Her eyes were steady, her voice unchanged. "Enter Terran space, and you will not return." Silence fell for a moment, not because they believed her, but because of the audacity, the cold steel in her tone. Then the laughter rose again, louder this time. Even the council chair, an ancient being whose species had guided the stars for millennia, shook his head with slow disappointment. The session ended with mockery and whispers. Humanity had spoken, but no one cared. News spread quickly across the galaxy. Star networks replayed the human warning with subtitles and mocking commentary. Holobrods filled with comedians imitating Terran arrogance. Merchants laughed as they passed through jump gates, repeating the phrase, "Do not cross into Terran space." It became a joke, a phrase used in taverns and academies, always with laughter, and then whispers began. Reports from the border. Strange silence from Terran outposts. Empire fleets moving closer to Orion Gate, the narrow corridor into Terran territory. The Council did nothing. They dismissed the whispers as rumors, exaggerations. After all, what could Earth do? But within Terran High Command, silence reigned. Across Earth's defense network, lights burned late into the night. Generals sat in shadowed rooms, their faces hard, their voices quiet. Admiral Gareth Holt, commander of the Terran Strategic Fleet, leaned over a table of glowing star charts. His hands were steady, his eyes cold. "They will cross," he said. "The Heller always test their prey." Beside him, Vice Admiral Sato nodded. "Then let them," she whispered. The room was tense, but not fearful. It was patient. Every officer knew what the rest of the galaxy did not. Humanity had prepared. For years, in silence, behind walls of secrecy, the Terran fleet had grown stronger than anyone imagined. Humanity had studied the empires, learned their weaknesses, built weapons not seen before. Still, they did not rush to deploy, because Earth's greatest weapon was not steel or plasma. It was patience. Far from Earth, near the Orion Gate, the Heller Empire moved. Massive ships, each the size of floating cities, drifted through space. Their hulls bristled with cannons, their banners glowed crimson, their engines roared like thunder. On the bridge of the flagship, Lord Commander Vare, a scarred veteran, leaned forward with amusement. "So this is Terran space," he muttered. Silent, empty, weak. His second-in-command, a younger officer with sharp fangs, laughed. "We could burn their colonies in hours." "We will," Vare replied, his voice calm. "But first, let them see us. Let them fear." Across the galaxy, networks broadcast the fleet's movement. Billions watched as the Heller Empire crossed the line Earth had drawn, back in the Galactic Council. Panic rippled through the chambers. Some species whispered that the Heller had gone too far. Others argued that Terran arrogance deserved punishment. A single phrase echoed through the chamber, repeated again and again. What will Earth do? But Earth remained silent. No ships moved, no fleets gathered. The stars above Terran territory remained quiet. To the galaxy it seemed like fear. To the Empire, it seemed like weakness. But to Earth, it was strategy. In hidden bases beneath Earth's oceans, massive carriers stirred. In the icy rings of Saturn, orbital platforms powered up. Across the Kuiper Belt, hidden stations lit their engines in silence, but the galaxy did not see instead. I saw Terran citizens living calmly, soldiers marching quietly, officers speaking without fear. The confidence unsettled those who paid attention. Why was humanity so calm? Why did their diplomats never flinch even when mocked? Why did their admirals wait when the Heller crossed deeper and deeper into Terran space? In a quiet chamber aboard, the Terran flagship Admiral Holt spoke to his officers. His voice was low, steady, controlled. They think us weak. They think us afraid. Let them. Turn to the holographic display of the invading fleet. The red symbols of Heller warships glowed brightly, spreading across the border. Then his eyes narrowed. When they are deep enough, we strike. The officers nodded. Their silence was not fear. It was the silence of wolves waiting for prey, and then it came. A message broadcast across the galaxy, shaking every world that received it. The Heller Empire had entered Terran territory, entire fleets were inside the borders, humanity's warning had been ignored. The galaxy watched with held breath, billions of eyes turned to Earth, waiting for the response. But Earth gave none. No speeches, no threats. No movement, only silence, and in that silence fear began to grow. The council chambers whispered with unease. Alien leaders shifted in their seats, their laughter quieter now, their eyes uncertain. Some still mocked, some still laughed. But deep inside, doubt spread, because silence can be more terrifying than words. And as the Heller fleet advanced deeper into forbidden space, one question echoed across the stars. Why is Earth so confident? The Orion Gate was ancient. It hung in the void like a giant scar of silver light, a wormhole corridor carved by long-dead builders. For centuries it had been the gateway between the outer systems and Terran space. Traders once passed through it freely. Explorers whispered about its beauty. Now it burned with the red glow of invasion. The Heller Empire's fleet arrived in silence. Hundreds of warships emerging from the gate like predators stalking prey. Their hulls were plated in black iron, etched with glowing crimson veins of energy. Massive banners of the Empire projected from their command ships. Symbols of dominance meant to terrify anyone watching. Civilian stations near the gate went dark. One by one, some managed to send fragments of warning before their comms cut to static. Screams echoed across the void, then silence. In the distance, neutral observers recorded everything. Their transmissions spread through the galaxy in minutes. The Heller Empire has entered Terran space. Billions of eyes turned to their holoscreens. Entire planets paused. Some species laughed. Others shivered. The forbidden line had been crossed. On the Colony World Series Prime, families gathered outside their shelters. Staring at the sky where distant shapes glowed like fireflies. Children clung to their parents as ships too large to comprehend drifted past the moons. A mother whispered, voice trembling, "Will Earth protect us?" The father's reply was bitter, broken. "No one protects us. We are pawns." Not his eyes. Like the eyes of billions turned toward Earth. Because despite the fear, despite the invasion, there was still the echo of that voice in the council chamber. Elena Markov's words, sharp as a blade. Do not cross into Terran space. Enter, and you will not return. Had she lied, or was humanity hiding something terrifying? On the bridge of the Heller flagship, Lord Commander Vare stood tall, his scales gleaming under crimson light. His claws tapped against the command table as reports arrived. Terran colonies abandoned. Resistance none? His lips curled in. Amusement. So much for their warning. His second-in-command laughed, showing rows of jagged teeth. Perhaps they truly believed they could frighten us. Perhaps they thought the council would protect them. The crew roared with laughter, their voices echoing through the great chamber. But one officer, younger, less certain, spoke softly. Commander, the Terrans remained silent. No fleet movements. No broadcasts. Nothing. Vare's eyes narrowed. He dismissed the doubt with a growl. Let them hide. Let them tremble. We will drag them out by fire. In the halls of the Galactic Council, the news spread like wildfire. The chamber that once laughed at Earth was now filled with unease. Delegates whispered. Voices hushed but urgent. A crystalline delegate clicked nervously. If the Terrans strike back, the Empire may drag us all into war. Another, feathered and trembling, replied, if they do nothing, the Empire will claim. Terran Spaceand then moved further. The council chair, his voice heavy with age, demanded silence. We will watch, will not interfere. The conflict is theirs. But deep inside, every species wondered the same thing. Why was Earth so quiet? While the galaxy debated, Earth prepared in deep bunkers beneath the crust of Mars. Soldiers suited up in armored exoskeletons, their faces cold and ready. In orbit around Neptune, Terran carriers powered up, their reactors glowing like suns. Hidden defense satellites, cloaked in silence, adjusted their positions with soft bursts of light, and in the Sol Defense Command Center, Admiral Gareth Holt studied the invasion map. Red markers filled the border zones. Alien fleets spread like blood across Terran charts. His voice was calm. Let them enter. Vice Admiral Sato nodded, her eyes narrowing. Every kilometer deeper, they walk into the fire. The room was silent. No one questioned the order, because every officer knew the truth. Terran silence was not weakness. On the mining station Aegis 9. Perched on the mining station Aegis 9, perched on the edge of Terran space, workers watched with dread as Heller's ships filled the sky. Master, a grizzled old man, slammed his fist against the console. We told them. We told the council. And now they've brought the Empire here. The Comm's officer turned pale. Incoming signal from the Heller flagship. The transmission crackled through every speaker, the voice of Lord Commander Vare booming with arrogance. People of Terra, your warnings are meaningless. Your defenses are broken. Your colonies belong to the Heller Empire. Laughter echoed through the channel before it cut. For a moment, silence filled the station. Then, slowly, a smile spread across the station master's face. Fools. They don't know what they've walked into. Across distant worlds, trillions watched the broadcasts. Some laughed at Terran arrogance collapsing before the Empire. Others whispered fearfully about the silence. News anchors on Alien. Worlds debated endlessly. Are the Terrans bluffing? Why have they not moved their fleets? Could they possibly have the strength to fight the Empire? Speculation filled every corner of the galaxy, but no one had answers. Only Earth knew the truth, and Earth was not speaking. Though the Heller fleets laughed, though they burned abandoned outposts and mocked the silent Terrans, fear lingered at the edges of their minds. Because predators know the signs of a trap, scouts reported strange readings in deep space, shadows moving where no ship should be. A faint hum across sensors, like distant thunder. But when they reported to their commanders, they were silenced. Terran tricks, Vare growled. Nothing more yet, every night in the dark halls. Of their ships, whispers grew among the crews. Why were the Terrans so calm? In the command room of Earth's fleet, Admiral Holt finally stood. His hand hovered over the table where hundreds of Heller fleet icons glowed red. The officers around him held their breath. For days they had watched the invasion. For days. They had let the Empire dig deeper into the Forbidden Zone. Now the prey had walked into the wolf's den. Holt's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. Signal the fleet, prepare to engage. The galaxy did not yet know. The Council did not yet see. The Empire still laughed in arrogance, but deep in the shadows of Terran space, engines flared. Weapons primed. Soldiers whispered oaths. The silence was ending, and when it ended, stars themselves would burn. The galaxy expected fire. They expected the Terrans to panic, to rush fleets to the border, to scream for help from the Council. Heller Armada spread deeper into Terran space. They burned abandoned stations, captured outposts, and broadcast mocking victories across every channel. On alien news networks, the laughter returned.
All screens.
Replayed the warning of Alina Markov. Do not cross into Terran space with comedians adding fake human tears. In taverns across the galaxy, her words became a joke. But beneath the laughter, quieter feelings spread. Unease, because the Terrans said nothing. No speeches. No protests. Never comfortable. On the bridge of the Heller flagship, Lord Commander Vare leaned back in his command chair, his eyes scanning the glowing battle maps. His fleet now occupied half a dozen Terran border systems. And still, the humans did not move. His second-in-command smirked. They are broken, Commander. They fear us too much to fight. He tapped his claws against the armrest. The silence of Earth was strange. It was not the silence of prey begging for mercy. It was controlled. Finally he spoke, voice low. Fear does not remain silent. Fear screams. This silence, something else. His words unsettled. His crew, deep within the Sol system, silence reigned for another reason. Humanity's war machine was awakening in the shadows. Beneath the oceans of Earth, submerged shipyards stirred. From the black waters, massive carriers began to rise, their armored hulls dripping with waves, engines igniting with soft blue light. On the frozen plains of Europa, bunkers opened, revealing missile platforms the size of cities. Soldiers in armored suits stood ready, their faces calm, their eyes steady, and on the far edge of the Kuiper Belt, blackness beyond the reach of most sensors, hidden fleets turned on their reactors. But the galaxy did not see, because humanity chose silence. As its shield in the Terran High Command Chamber, Admiral Gareth Holt stood at the center of a massive holographic display. Red icons filled the map, each one a Heller warship inside Terran territory. His voice was measured, calm. They believe silence is weakness. They cannot see silence as strategy. The Council believes we are cornered. The Heller believe we are broken. The galaxy believes we are fools. Holt nodded once. Then let them. We do not need belief. We need results. The officers around him exchanged glances. None questioned the order, because they all knew the longer the Heller marched into Terran space, the closer they came to the jaws of a trap. On Terran colony worlds, fear spread but not despair. On Arcadia Prime, citizens huddled in shelters as the shadows of Heller warships eclipsed the sky. The children trembled, but their parents spoke softly of Earth's promise. Hold fast, one father whispered to his daughter. Earth does not forget its children. On Outpost Vega, miners armed themselves with old rifles, watching the skies as enemy patrols searched the fields. They were ready to fight, even to the last. But in the hearts of the people there was an unshakable belief. The silence meant Earth was preparing. They did not know how. They did not know when. But they knew humanity would not stay silent forever, to break the Terran spirit. Lord Commander Vare ordered a galaxy-wide transmission. The message opened with images of burning colonies, captured prisoners, and Terran stations drifting in ruins. Then Vare's face filled the screen, his scaled features proud and cruel. People of Terra, you warned us. You dared threaten us, and now you are silent. Your space is ours. His voice thundered across 1,000 systems. His laughter echoed, and still Earth said nothing. The silence spread like a poison, because when an enemy does not answer, when they do not scream or rage, when they only watch, it feels less like fear and more like judgment. In the Heller fleet, whispers grew. Crew members spoke in hushed voices of strange readings on sensors. Ships vanishing without a trace. Scouts reporting flickers of movement in the dark shadows. That disappeared before they could be tracked. A junior officer approached his commander with trembling claws. "Sir, what if they are waiting for us to go deeper?" What if the commander silenced him with a growl? "They are weak. Do not let their silence unnerve you." But the fear remained. Predators recognize when they are being watched, and deep inside. They knew the humans were not afraid, in the command chamber of Earth's fleet. Admiral Holt finally spoke the words his officers had been waiting for. His voice was low, controlled. "They are inside the trap. The time is near. Prepare the fleet." Across Terran space, silent engines flared to life. Ships the size of cities shifted in the void, invisible to the enemy's eyes. Weapons locked, crews strapped into battle. Stations, and still, to the galaxy, Earth was silent. The silence stretched across the stars, heavy and suffocating. The silence of something vast, ancient, and patient. The silence before fury. On the bridge of the Heller flagship, Lord Commander Vayer stared into the void. His eyes narrowed, his claws tapped slowly against steel. He felt it. The tension in the stars, the unseen weight pressing against his chest. "Something is coming," he whispered, but it was too late. His fleet was already inside the forbidden zone. His soldiers already walked into the jaws of the Terran war machine. The silence was ending, and when it ended, the galaxy would never be the same. For days, the galaxy had waited. For days, the Heller Empire had laughed. For days, Earth had said nothing. But then, in the blackness of Terran space, silence broke. It began with whispers on military channels, unconfirmed reports of Heller ships vanishing, entire patrols cut. Off mid-broadcast. At first, commanders dismissed it as technical failures. Then, as transmissions flooded in, the truth could not be denied. A fleet had been struck. Seeing the galaxy leaned in, the silence was over. Humanity had spoken not with words, but with fire. The Heller Task Force patrolled the Carina expanse, 30 warships moving in formation, their banners glowing crimson. The void was calm, sensors clear. Then, without warning, the lead cruiser exploded in silence. A flash of white light tore through its hull, splitting the ship in two. No torpedoes detected, no beams tracked. It's just a blinding cut, as if the void itself had swallowed it. The fleet scrambled, alarms echoing across bridges. Weapons lock. Where is the enemy? Another ship erupted, torn apart by an invisible force. Then another. Panic spread on the flagship. Officers shouted over each other, claws trembling against consoles. "Nothing on sensors, Commander?" "Shadows there. No. Gone. We're blind." In less than 5 minutes, half the task force was gone. No ships drifted as burning wrecks, crewless hulks swallowed by the dark. And then, for the first time, the Terrans revealed themselves. Single massive silhouette emerged from the void. Its hull gleamed black and silver, sharp angles catching faint starlight. Its engines pulsed with deep blue fire, silent and steady. Across its prow, glowing white letters shone clear. TSS Vigilant. The first Terran strike cruiser had arrived, its weapons lit up with precision fire. Beams of pure plasma lanced through, the dark cutting warships apart with surgical strikes. All missiles, cloaked until impact. Shattered shields like glass that the Heller fleet screamed across Kumsponic. Confusion, desperate cries for retreat. None reached safety. Within minutes, 30 warships were gone. The Vigilant did not even take a hit. The galaxy watched through leaked transmissions. Billions sat in stunned silence. The mocking laughter of days before vanished like smoke. Humanity had struck, and the Empire bled. In the Galactic Council, chaos erupted. Delegates shouted, their voices echoing through the Grand Chamber. "The humans, what is this?" It was no border skirmish. 30 warships in minutes? How did they build such weapons unseen? The council chair slammed his staff, calling for silence. But even his voice shook with unease, because for the first time, the council realized what the humans had done. While the galaxy mocked, while empires laughed, Earth had been building, quietly, patiently, preparing for this moment. On the bridge of the Terran flagship, Admiral Gareth Holt stood tall, his uniform sharp, his expression unreadable. Before him, holographic maps glowed red with Heller fleets. One task force destroyed, Vice Admiral Sato reported. The others have seen the broadcast. They will know now. Holt's voice was calm, but his words carried steel. Good. Let them. No. Fear is a weapon sharper than plasma. He turned to his officers. The Empire believes silence is weakness. Now they know silence is the blade before the strike. We'll not stop here. Prepare the fleet. The room vibrated with tension. The Terran war machine was awake. On Heller, worlds, the news spread like fire. Families stared at hollow screens in disbelief. Soldiers whispered in barracks. Commanders argued in panic-filled councils. For centuries, the Empire had been feared. Its fleets had been unstoppable. Its enemies had fallen without resistance, and now 30 ships gone in moments. By humans, by a species the galaxy called weak. Lord Commander Vayer slammed his fist against the command table aboard his flagship, fury shaking his voice. Find them. I want them. I want the humans broken. But even he felt the weight of fear in his chest. Because predators know when they've met something stronger. Billions of eyes turned to the feeds replayed across networks. The silent Terran strike. The vigilance emergence. The burning Hellerex drifting in the void. The commentators who once mocked Earth were silent now. Analysts whispered about impossible technology. Weapons beyond known science. And everywhere, the same question rose. If this is the first strike, what else are the humans hiding? The silence did not end with one battle. Hours later, another. Heller fleet vanished near the Vega outpost. The same pattern. Sudden explosions, unseen weapons, tire formations erased without warning. Then another fleet burned near Sirius Reach. Then another. In 3 days, nearly 200 Heller warships were gone. The survivors spoke of shadows, of ships appearing and disappearing. Of weapons no sensors could track. The galaxy trembled. The Council panicked. The Empire raged. And Earth remained calm. Finally, after days of silence, the Terran spoke. A transmission. Short and clear, echoed across every channel, every world, every fleet. Alina Markov's voice, calm and sharp, filled the stars once again. You were warned. Terran space is forbidden. Enter again, and you will not return. Nothing more. No threats, no speeches. Just the same words they had spoken before. But this time, no one laughed. On the bridge of the Heller flagship, Lord Commander Vayer stared at the wreckage of his fleets, his claws dug into steel, his rage trembling. But behind the rage, a seed of fear grew, because he now understood what the galaxy was beginning to whisper. The Terrans had only begun. The first strike was not the war. It was the warning, and the fury of Earth had yet to come. The throne hall of the Heller Empire had never been silent. For centuries it rang with the sound of victory chants, the roar of generals boasting of conquests and the applause of courtiers, praising their emperor. But now, silence ruled. In the vast chamber, lined with banners of past glories, the emperor sat unmoving. His golden armor, once a symbol of dominance, now looked heavy upon his shoulders. Before him, trembling generals reported the unthinkable. 200 ships, gone, entire fleets erased. Their voices shook, their claws scraped against the polished floor. The emperor's eyes narrowed, his breath hissed through his fangs. By humans, he spat. Ah! By prey. The word echoed, bitter and shameful. And in that silence, the Empire began to fracture across Heller's space. Messages of panic spread. Colonies demanded protection. Outposts begged for reinforcements. Families of soldiers cried in the streets. As news of annihilated fleets reached them, the once-proud generals turned on each other in council chambers. You led them into the trap. One shouted. No, your fleets failed first. Another roared. Their voices were desperate, sharp, panicked. For the first time, the Empire's command was no longer united, and whispers spread even among the soldiers. The Terrans were not prey. They were hunters. The Empire had walked willingly into their jaws. Aboard his flagship, Lord Commander Vaer raged. He slammed his claws against steel, sparks flying. We are the Empire. We do not break. Before vermin, but his officers looked at him with doubt. They had seen what he had seen, fleets torn apart in minutes, weapons beyond comprehension, enemies who fought like ghosts in his private chamber. Away from the crew, Vaer admitted what he would never say aloud. They warned us, he whispered, to himself, and I led us into their trap. His claws trembled. In the Galactic Council, fear turned into careful calculation. The same delegates who had laughed at Earth now whispered cautiously, if the humans can erase fleets of the Empire, they can do this in silence. Perhaps Terran space truly must remain forbidden. But others, fearful of the Heller's wrath, warned against speaking too loudly. Council was split between those who feared the Empire's collapse, and those who feared what humanity would do next. While the galaxy trembled, Earth remained calm. Cities across the planet screens displayed the same message, the same promise, repeated again and again. Terran space is forbidden. Families of soldiers walked with pride, not fear. Citizens in colonies prepared supplies, confident in their fleet's protection. Soldiers trained with steady discipline, their eyes hard and sharp. They were not arrogant. They were not boastful. They were prepared, and that confidence spread like wildfire. For the first time, humanity felt not like a small world among giants, but like the center of something greater. On Heller colony worlds, riots broke out. Citizens shouted in the streets, demanding to know why their fleets were failing, why their sons and daughters were vanishing in wreckage. Some shouted at the Emperor for his arrogance. Others cursed humanity's name in fear. But everywhere, the same word began to creep into whispers. Defeat. It was a word the Heller Empire had not spoken in centuries. Now it echoed in every hall, every barracks, every home. The Emperor summoned his closest advisors. They stood in a circle, their voices low, their faces grim. We cannot retreat, one said. If we retreat, the galaxy will see weakness, another argued. If we advance, more fleets will burn, a third whispered. The Emperor's claws clenched around his throne. His pride warred with the truth. Finally, he spoke. We will gather the full armada. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We will crush the humans with the weight of the Empire. The advisors bowed, but none spoke their true thoughts. Because, in their hearts, fear was stronger than pride in the Sole Defense Command. Admiral Holt received reports of the Empire's next move. The red icons on the map grew larger, thicker, heavier. Vice Admiral Sato's eyes narrowed. They are gathering everything. They mean to drown us in numbers. Holt's voice was calm, steady, cold. Numbers mean nothing if they are blind. Let them come. The greater their strength, the greater their fall. His officers nodded. Not a single face showed fear, because they knew what the Empire did not Earth, had not yet revealed its full strength. The Heller Empire's own broadcasts, once filled with victory chants, now shook with doubt. Families wailed for lost soldiers. Colonies whispered rebellion. Generals fought among themselves, and in that growing chaos, one truth became clear. The Empire was no longer unbreakable. The cracks had widened, the fractures deepened, and Earth had only struck the first blows in his private chamber. Lord Commander Vaer stared into the void. His eyes burned with fury, but his claws trembled. He could not deny it anymore. The Empire was shattering, and the humans were not finished. The transmission was broken, full of static, but the fear in the scout's voice was clear. Damn entering. Terran border. No contact, no resistance. Wait shadows. Movement in the dark, then silence. Minutes later, only wreckage drifted across the void. Another scout ship lost, another warning ignored. The galaxy watched as these fragments of last words spread across the networks, and a new whisper began to replace laughter. Not weakness, not arrogance, not fear. The Terran border was no longer just a line on a map. It was a zone of death. News spread quickly. Dozens of Heller ships entered Terran space, none returned. Transmissions ended mid-sentence. Fleets vanished without a trace. Survivors were never found. Alien commentators began calling it the Forbidden Zone. A name that echoed across every system. Merchants refused to approach it. Traders changed their routes. Even pirates, who once preyed on Terran colonies, turned away, because whatever waited inside Terran space, it was not weakness, it was not prey. It was something merciless, patient, and unstoppable. Inside the Heller Empire, fear turned into desperation. The Emperor's advisors argued louder than ever. We must withdraw. This war is bleeding us. Withdraw? Let the galaxy see us as cowards. Better cowards than corpses. But the Emperor refused. His pride was a chain around his neck. We do not retreat. We'll break them with our full strength. Yet even as he spoke, reports of riots filled the palace halls. Families of soldiers screamed outside the gates, demanding answers for the endless losses. The word forbidden was painted on walls, scratched into steel, whispered by children in the streets. The Empire was rotting from within. On Earth, the mood was different. Citizens gathered in plazas, watching broadcasts of alien panic with calm expressions. They saw the galaxy calling Terran space a forbidden zone, and nodded quietly, as if the name was not a warning but a truth finally spoken aloud. In military bases, soldiers drilled with steady precision. Admirals spoke in low tones, their words confident, unshaken. Let them enter, Admiral Holt said. Every ship that crosses will feed the silence. Vice Admiral Sato leaned forward over the glowing battle map. The more they send, the greater their collapse. The zone itself will break them. For the Heller crews inside Terran borders, terror became routine. Sensors failed without warning. Shadows moved where no ships should be. Energy readings spiked and vanished. Crews reported whispers across comms, faint echoes of human voices that disappeared into static, and then the strikes came. Not fleets this time, but single Terran warships appearing from nowhere, tearing apart entire groups before vanishing again. The survivors never made it home. The Forbidden Zone swallowed everything, in the Galactic Council. Silence filled the great chamber. The same delegates who once laughed at Earth now spoke with trembling voices. The Forbidden Zone, it is real. Even the Heller cannot breach it. If Earth can do this, if Terran space is untouchable, what does that mean? For the rest of us? The council chair, voice heavy with fear, finally admitted what none wanted to say aloud. It means humanity is no longer one of us. They stand above us now. The words sent shivers through the chamber. Aboard his flagship, Lord Commander Vare stared at the reports. Fleet after fleet lost, entire armadas swallowed by silence. His officers looked at him with fear. Commander, we cannot keep sending ships into their zone. It is suicide. Vare's claws dug into the command table. His pride burned hotter than his fear. We are the Empire. If we retreat, we are nothing. We will send everything. Every ship, every soldier. The humans cannot stand against the full might of Heller. But even as he spoke, doubt filled his crew's eyes, because deep down, they knew, numbers did not matter in the Forbidden Zone. On the Terran colony world Erebus, civilians gathered on rooftops as distant flashes lit the sky. Alien fleets burned. In orbit, shattered by invisible Terran weapons, children pointed at the glowing wrecks, their eyes wide with awe. Parents held them close, whispering words of pride. Earth protects us. This is our space, and no one takes it. The people no longer feared the Empire. They feared nothing, because they knew Earth would fight for them and win. Finally, another message spread across the stars. Short, cold, terrifying. Terran space is forbidden. Enter, and you will not return. This time no one mocked it. No one laughed. Words were not a threat anymore. They were fact. The galaxy listened, silent and afraid. On the edge of the Forbidden Zone, alien fleets lingered, their commanders trembling with indecision. To enter meant death. To retreat meant shame. And as they hesitated, The humans waited in silence, not moving, not speaking, just watching. Because Terran space was no longer territory, it was a warning carved into the stars. It was a graveyard. It was the Forbidden Zone. The skies above the Hellar-Throne world glowed with fire. Shipyards burned with activity. Factories roared day and night. And fleets of warships launched in endless streams, for the first time in centuries. The Hellar Empire called every fleet, every soldier, every weapon to war. The Emperor's voice thundered across every channel. The humans dare shame us. They dare strike the Empire. We will answer with fire. This is not retreat. This is not defense. This is annihilation. The people roared, but their cheers carried more desperation than pride. Every citizen knew the truth. The Empire was bleeding. And this was their final gamble. Billions across the galaxy tuned in to watch. Networks broadcast the sight of the largest armada ever assembled. Thousands of warships, Titanic carriers, and planet-buster dreadnoughts gathered in the void. Council whispered in fear. Merchants fled the borders. Even pirates paused their raids. The Hellar Empire was going to throw its entire weight into Terran space, and the galaxy held its breath. Aboard his flagship, Lord Commander Vare stood before his crew. Scarred face was filled with fury, but his voice carried iron. This is our last march. Either the humans burn, or the Empire dies. There will be no retreat. There will be no surrender. We go into their zone with everything we are. His officers shouted in unison, but their voices shook, because though they repeated the oath of victory, their eyes betrayed fear. They had seen fleets vanish in silence, had seen shadows strike without warning, and now they were being asked to lead the Empire's last hope into the Forbidden Zone. On Earth, the mood was calm, steady. In great halls filled with glowing star charts, Terran commanders watched the massive armada move across the void. Vice Admiral Sato leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. They're sending everything. Every ship they have. Admiral Holt stood, silent for a long moment, then spoke in a voice that carried finality. Good. Better to end the war here, in one stroke, than to let it bleed for years. If they bring everything, we will destroy everything. The room was silent. Then one by one, the officers nodded. Earth was not afraid. The Hellar Armada crossed the border. Thousands of ships filled the stars, a sea of crimson banners glowing like fire against the black, from the outer colonies. Terran citizens watched the sky darken as alien fleets passed overhead, but they did not tremble. They whispered words with quiet certainty. Earth will protect us. Forbidden Zone will take them. And still, Earth's fleets did not move. The galaxy once again asked the question that had haunted them. Since the beginning, why was Earth so calm? As the Hellar ships pushed deeper into Terran space, unease grew. Their sensors failed again and again. Strange echoes filled their comms. Shadows moved across their hulls, a destroyer captain reported. To the flagship commander, my crew swears they see lights in the void. Movements too fast for sensors to catch. Bar snarled in reply. They are tricks. Human toys meant to frighten us. Ignore them. But deep down, even he felt it. The weight of being watched, hunted, measured. The silence was too perfect. The void was to still in the sole defense command. Admiral Holt gave the order. His voice was quiet, steady, like the turning of a key. Engage. Across the darkness, Terran warships came alive. Carriers hidden in asteroid fields lit their engines. Cruisers cloaked in shadow powered their weapons. Entire fleets, waiting in silence, surged forward as one. The Forbidden Zone erupted with fire. The Hellar vanguard collapsed instantly. Invisible torpedoes tore through their shields. Precision plasma beams sliced their dreadnoughts in half, and massive kinetic projectiles punched holes clean through their carriers. The sky burned red with wreckage. Thousands of ships scattered, in panic, trying to regroup. But the Terrans struck with surgical precision. On alien broadcasts, the galaxy watched in horror as the largest fleet in history was torn apart in its first hours. On his flagship, Vare roared, "Hold the line, do not break." Overwhelm them with numbers. But his words rang hollow. His fleets were crumbling. His numbers meant nothing in the jaws of the Terran trap. His eyes burned with fury as reports came. In hundreds of ships gone, thousands of lives lost, entire wings erased in minutes. Still, he refused to retreat. If we fall fighting. In the Terran fleet, Admiral Holt's face remained calm, but his voice carried the weight of centuries. For too long, they mocked us. For too long, they believed us weak. Today we end their illusion. Today. The Empire learns why Terran's space is forbidden. His officers stood straighter. Soldiers across the fleet shouted with pride, and the galaxy, watching through trembling broadcasts, understood this was not just defense. This was judgment. The forbidden zone burned with the fire of 1,000 battles. A battle. Galaxy had ever seen was breaking, shattering under Terran fury. In the council chambers, silence reigned. In the Empire's throne hall, fear spread like disease, and in the dark. Among the wreckage, Admiral Holt whispered the words that carried across every battlefield. This is the last defiance of the Empire, and it will be their grave. The greatest armada the galaxy had ever seen was gone. The void near the Terran border still burned with the wreckage of thousands of ships. Debris fields stretched for light years, broken holes glowing red against the dark. Corpses of war machines drifted silently. The proud banners of the Heller Empire torn and lifeless, and through that silence, Terran ships moved like shadows. Engines low, weapons still glowing, searching the ruins for any who remained. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The Empire had thrown everything into the Forbidden Zone, and everything had been lost in the throne hall of the Heller Empire. Silence reigned once more. The Emperor, once a symbol of pride, now looked broken. Ports flooded and fleets destroyed. Generals dead, colonies rioting. His hands trembled as he gripped the arms of his throne. One advisor dared to whisper, "We must ask for peace." The Emperor's eyes burned with shame. Peace meant humiliation. Peace meant admitting weakness. But the truth was undeniable. The Empire no longer had the strength to fight. Their armada was gone. Their empire was shattered, and Earth still stood unbroken. Aboard his crippled flagship, Lord Commander Vare watched the last of his ships burn. His crew begged him to flee, to retreat, to save what remained, but he refused. His pride, his fury, his shame chained him to his command chair. "We are the Empire," he whispered. "We do not kneel." Yet even as he spoke, he knew the truth. The Empire had already knelt broken, not by speeches, not by treaties, but by silence and fire. His final transmission was short, bitter, and filled with despair. The humans were right. Terran space is forbidden. Then his ship detonated. In silence, consumed by fire, in the sole defense command, Admiral Holt stood before a galaxy-wide broadcast. For the first time since the war began, Earth chose to speak. His face appeared on every screen, his voice calm, steady, and merciless. "This war is over. The Heller Empire has fallen. Terran space is forbidden. Any who enter without leave will not return. This is the law of Earth." His eyes narrowed, his words cut like steel. "We warned you once. There will not be a second warning." The message ended. No speeches, no boasting, just the decree. The galaxy trembled. In the Galactic Council, no delegate laughed. No one mocked. No one spoke. They all remembered the day Earth's warning had been treated as a joke. They all remembered the laughter that filled the chamber when Alina Markov said the words, "Do not cross into Terran space." Now, those same words had become law. The council chair finally broke the silence, his voice heavy with awe. "The galaxy has changed. From this day, no one stands above Earth." On Earth and its colonies, celebrations spread like wildfire. Cities lit with firework displays, families gathered in joy, soldiers returned home with pride in their eyes. But even in their victory, The humans remained quiet. They did not shout of conquest. They did not boast of empire. Instead, they honored their dead, rebuilt their colonies, and stood with unshakable resolve, because humanity had never sought war. They had sought respect, and now they had it across. Alien worlds' reactions were mixed. Some feared Earth, whispering of shadows and unseen weapons. Others looked on with respect, even admiration. Some even saw hope that if Earth could rise from a small world to challenge an empire, perhaps others could too, but all agreed on one truth. No one would ever forget the warning. No one would ever test it again in the quiet of his command chamber. Admiral Holt spoke to Vice Admiral Sato. His voice was calm, his gaze steady. The galaxy now knows. The age of Terran silence is over. We will speak only when needed, and when we speak, they will listen. Sato nodded. We are no longer a world among many. We are Earth, and the stars will remember. The final images spread across the galaxy, Terran fleets moving calmly through the wreckage of the greatest armada in history. Banners of Earth glowing bright against the void, and Alina Markov's words echoing once more, "Do not cross into Terran space." What began as a warning had become law, and the galaxy understood. To defy humanity was not just foolish. It was suicide.